Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Jessica, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 awesome Dollar Tree DIYs. These ones are going to be geared towards a really high-end look, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to share these with you. They honestly turned out really beautifully, but they were really fun to recreate, and best of all, inexpensive. But before we get started, if you are new here, I would love to have you join us by subscribing down below and make sure to turn on that notification bell. So for this first DIY, I picked up one of these Crayola Model Magic little things of clay. So they come in these small packs, but honestly for this DIY, the small pack is perfect. And then I also picked up this glass vase from the Dollar Tree, and they usually have this one all year long, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. And the Model Magic clay can usually be found in their craft area, but also sometimes I've seen it in the toy area, so you might have to look around a little bit. So I'm just going to get started by making some handles for my glass vase, because I want this to look like a piece of pottery. So to do that, I just took maybe about 1/3 of the clay, a bit more, and I'm just giving it that look of a handle. So I rolled it out, and I'm just going to take my time here by just firmly attaching it to the vase and just shaping it until I thought it looked like a real pottery handle. And then the tricky part is replicating that on the other side. So the second handle definitely took a little bit more time just because I wanted it to look pretty close to the first one. But overall, it was super simple. And if you have not used this Model Magic before, it is so awesome to work with. It's very lightweight, it's not sticky, and after you mold it however you like, you just let it air dry for about 24 hours and it is good to go. So here's my vase after 24 hours. My handles were nice and dry, so it is time to start painting. I'm going to be using 2 different colors, and the first color is going to be a deeper tan for the bottom portion of my vase. So I just want to mark that off with some painter's tape, and I already had this one on hand, but you can definitely find painter's tape at the Dollar Tree as well. As you can see, my tape was a little bit too thick though, so I did just go ahead and give it a trim right down the center because I didn't want it to get in the way of the handles. And the bottom portion that I will be leaving exposed to paint is pretty small. I would say about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So I just need to do 1 blue line all the way across just so I could have a clean line when I paint my first color. Now for the paint, I am going to be using some white acrylic paint, and you'll see here I'm going to be mixing some colors as well as some baking soda, so that is why I have a disposable cup here. So first I just went in with some white acrylic paint, but I wanted to warm it up, so I did add some deep brown to it. And now for the fun part, you can sprinkle in some baking soda. So I picked up this baking soda at the Dollar Tree, but chances are you might have some in your cupboard already. And if you have not used the technique of baking soda painting before, I highly recommend it. It is so much fun. So it's really user-friendly too, because you'll kind of be able to pick out your own consistency. So the more paint you use, the thinner it's going to be. But for the bottom portion of my vase, I wanted a really gritty texture. So you'll see here, I kept mixing in more baking soda. So just add a little bit at a time and you will get that really kind of almost like toothpaste consistency texture. But if this is not for you and you don't care for this really gritty, thick textured look, just add some more paint to thin it out and it will give you some really nice coverage, but it won't be quite as textured as this one. So I did do 2 layers of that baking soda paint on the bottom, and then I let that dry for a few hours, and now I'm just very carefully removing my blue painter's tape. And I will say that the paint did dry very quickly, which was a big plus because I just hate waiting for really long dry times. I just want to keep DIYing. So I was really happy with how quickly it did dry. So once you remove that very carefully, you can get started on your second color. For the overall color for the vase, I did want it to have the same undertones as the bottom portion, but I wanted it to be more of an ivory color. So I started off with some white acrylic paint just like before. I added in some baking soda, and then I put that same brown in that I used for the base portion, but only a little bit this time, just to kind of warm up that white so it wasn't such a bright white. And then once I had my color, I just went ahead and started painting. And you will see here that the texture is different, and that was on purpose. I wanted the bottom portion to be really thick and gritty. And for the rest of the vase, I kind of wanted more of just a muted look, if that makes sense. So I definitely added more paint for the upper portion and not as much baking soda. This was the really fun part of the DIY for me, because once you start to get that color all over the vase and you start to cover up those red handles, your project really starts to take shape and you get a feel of what it's going to look like. And I just started falling in love at this point. It was a little hard to imagine what it was going to turn out like with those red handles. So with those covered up, it was definitely looking a lot better. To cover most of the surface, I did use a nice big paintbrush, but for the bottom portion where the two colors were going to meet, I did use a smaller paintbrush and just took my time and painted that line. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's meant to look like a handmade piece of pottery, but you just want to be a little bit more careful. Here was my vase after I let my first coat dry, and you'll see I do have a couple of bare areas, but that baking soda paint really does cover up really well. It has awesome coverage, so I just have to do a light second coat just to fill in a couple of those bare areas. And at this point, I did decide to paint the inside of my vase. This is completely optional. If you don't want to paint the entire inside, I would recommend just painting the inside of the lip right at the top. But if you don't want to paint the entire inside, I would not worry about it, especially if this is just going to be on a bookshelf, or just displayed somewhere. No one is going to be peeking inside your vase, but I figured I already mixed the paint, so why not? So I just went ahead and coated the inside, just in one coat of it, just in case anyone does have a peek inside. It looked like it was a piece of pottery all the way around. And here it is after that second coat of baking soda paint was all dry, and you can really appreciate that texture that paint gives it, and it makes it look pretty realistic. So I just had mine displayed here next to my lamp on my console table, but I really do love the look of this DIY. This next one, I'm going to be starting off with two of these glass candle plates from the Dollar Tree. They have a bit of a pebbled look on the bottom, but you will not see that in the end result. And then I also picked up two of these candle holders, and all of these items are located in their candle department, and they usually have them all year round, so hopefully they should not be hard to locate at all. And you'll see that the candle dish here does have 3 circles on the bottom for the feet, but those will not get in the way at all. This candle holder actually fits into those 3 kind of pegs perfectly, so that was a relief. I was a little bit worried they would get in the way, but they do not at all. And since this is going to be a candle holder, hot glue alone is not enough. You have to add something else to give it that really permanent hold. If you are just using these for display purposes alone, or just for flameless candles, you could probably get away with just the hot glue, but if you plan on putting any real candles on here, you must use something stronger. So I'm using some E6000 glue for this, and I put a generous amount right in the center on top of that hot glue. And the two of these together will give a nice strong hold. And since the bottom of the candle dish also has that pebbled surface, you want to put some extra glue. That way it can kind of seep into all the curves of the pebbles and really grip on tight. And you want to apply a bit of pressure and just push down for several seconds, and then give this a couple of hours to dry completely. And then I went ahead and just repeated that same process over again, since I was making a pair of candle holders. But I would say that if you are putting real candles on here, still be very, very careful. I would honestly recommend just putting flameless candles, since they are so much safer. And I did want to mention I am using the Gorilla Glue sticks for this, just to give that extra strong hold. The E6000 though is honestly really great, but I figured it couldn't hurt. So I do like to use the Gorilla Glue sticks, since they are a bit stronger of a hold than just regular glue sticks. I picked mine up from Amazon, and if you're interested, I will leave those linked down below. And like I said before you move on to painting them, just make sure to give these a little bit of dry time. So you can definitely leave them overnight, or just a few hours should be good enough for it to be nice and strong so it is ready for painting. For a base coat, I'm going to be spray painting my candle holders with this Rust-Oleum Ultra Matte White Spray Paint. This one is perfect. It really gives really nice coverage with just 1 or 2 coats. So I'm just going to go ahead and give them a quick spray. Here they are after 1 coat of that Rust-Oleum white spray paint. And this is just my primer coat. I will be going over it with a different colored spray paint, but I did just want to show this to you guys because if you love to decorate with white and just have a really clean look, you could stop this DIY right here and skip the next step. I did want to cover them with a different color because I wanted a different look, but I think that these look really high end and that matte white definitely gives it that appearance. So if you just want to stop right here, I would say feel free to, but I was really tempted just to give them a coat of this Rust-Oleum multi-textured color. If you remember, I did this a couple videos back to this DIY bowl here, and I loved the look of it. So I thought that it would be fun to kind of make some candle holders that matched my Dollar Tree bowl. So that is what I will be doing. And I will say that this spray paint is not as easy to work with as just that Rust-Oleum white spray paint. It's a little bit trickier, but it is okay. You just have to know going into it that it's gonna take some time, and you just wanna do really light coats. So you'll see here, I'm just really lightly covering that white spray paint, and then I'm gonna just kind of do 1 quick dusting and then leave it for about 35 minutes before I do my other coats. And here they are after several coats of that spray paint, and I did want to mention that these 2 candle holders did take that entire can of spray paint, but I do think it was worth it. I love the look of these. I think that they are just so beautiful, and I will leave the link down below for that spray paint. I picked mine up at Walmart. I think it was around $5 or $6 for the can. Here is a look how I styled them, and like I said, if you are using real candles, just be super careful with this. I do recommend flameless because they of course are safer, but I just love the look of this. And these 2 candles I did pick up from the Dollar Tree as well, so if you're interested, they have these in their candle section and they're completely unscented, but they really do give a really high-end look. For our last DIY, I'm going to be starting off with this plastic wicker looking basket that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. And even if you do not want to DIY it, I would still really recommend these baskets just for organization around the house. They are nice and sturdy, and they have that texture of a real wicker basket. They're just really great looking in my opinion, but I think it's gonna look even better once we spray paint it. So I'm gonna go in with that same Rust-Oleum Ultra Matte White Spray Paint because this one does bond to plastic and it gives such a beautiful coverage. And it does say 2 times coverage, and I would definitely say it does because I only had to do 2 coats of the spray paint, so it was pretty simple. So I just worked my way back and forth, and this spray paint, unlike the stone one, is very user-friendly. There's honestly no explanation needed here. You can just go ahead, give it a nice full coverage coat. I went in with 2 because white obviously takes a little bit more time to cover those deep dark blue colors, but this is how it looked after 2 coats, and I was pretty impressed. This is another DIY where if you wanted to, you could just stop right here. I think that matte white already gives this such a high-end look and just really elevates the look of this basket, but I wanted to add a bit more interest. So for that, I'm going to be going in with this twine. So I picked this one up at the Dollar Tree in their Crafter's Square area, and I use this twine for everything. I'm a big fan of it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn my bucket over. So you just wanna find a spot right in the back towards the bottom, and I'm just gonna be putting a little bit of hot glue. So you'll see I'm putting it right above that bottom lip, right when the wicker pattern starts, and just a little bit, and I'm just gonna be pressing in my twine into it, giving it a couple seconds to dry, and then I'm gonna start to wrap my basket. So you will see that I'm just going to be wrapping it all the way around, maybe 30 times, I would say. Maybe not that many. I didn't really count, but you'll see it only ends up going a couple of inches up the basket. I didn't want to wrap the entire thing. It was just to give a little bit of a color break and to add some more visual texture. So I just wrapped it around a bunch of times, and now you can kind of start to just scooch them down. And I will say I only put that one little bead of hot glue in the beginning and then one at the end, just to secure my rope down. I did not hot glue the whole way. It is absolutely not needed whatsoever. You just want to secure that twine down in the beginning and in the end. So once I had it glued, I just trimmed it off, situated my rope, and that was it. At this point, I thought that the basket was really starting to take shape, but just to give it a bit more of a finished look, I wanted to wrap the handles as well. So I started off by just pulling a nice long piece of that same twine, trimming it off, and then I'm just going to be hot gluing the end of it to where the handle starts. So it's kind of easy to see here. I just put just a really small amount of hot glue on the inside. Then you just want to take your twine, just press it in there firmly, give it a couple seconds to dry, and then you can start to wrap your twine around the handle. To make this process a little bit easier, you can just wrap up your twine very neatly like this and just pull out a little bit of string as you need it. And at first, I thought that this was going to take forever. I was a little bit concerned about it, but it honestly took no time at all. I was pretty surprised. I was able to wrap the handle in about maybe a minute or two. It was really quick though, so do not be fearful that this is going to take forever. It honestly goes by before you even know it, and you just want to make sure that when you're pulling it through, you're keeping it nice and tight. That is what is going to make it look really finished. If it is all loose, it's just going to end up looking kind of sloppy. So you just want to make sure that you are holding it tight the entire time. And then to secure it down, I just put some more hot glue and just trimmed it off and just pressed it in there. Once you have your one handle done, you just want to repeat that same process, of course, for your second one. Wrapping the handles really does just finish off this DIY so beautifully. And of course, you can use this for so many things, storage, or just make a couple of them and display them on a bookcase. But I'm going to show you how I used mine. So I purchased this faux fiddle leaf tree, and it came in just the starter pot, and I knew I would have to come up with something else for it since it was not that aesthetically pleasing, and I thought that this DIY would be perfect for this. So you'll see here, I just put my faux tree right into the center of it, and I did have some gaps on the side there. So to fill those in, I just grabbed some paper towels and kind of just crinkled them up and just used those to be filler. So I just put them in the gaps in the sides there and a little bit on top. And then to finish it off, because you do not want to leave it like this, I got a bag of Dollar Tree Spanish moss that you can find in their Crafter Square area, and I just needed one bag for this. So once you pull it out, you just want to fluff it up a little bit, and then I just went ahead and tucked it all around and kind of down into the sides, and I think that it just finished it off perfectly. I would love to know how you guys would use this basket since it is so versatile. So let me know in the comments how you would style it or what you would use it for. And those are all the DIYs that I have for you guys today. I just really loved these and how they turned out. I really hope that you guys did as well. I definitely have some more fun high-end Dollar Tree DIYs that I've been thinking about. So make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you find out right away when those videos are released. And I just wanted to do a special thank you to all of our new subscribers. I really do appreciate you all so much, and I really love that you guys are helping to grow our crafting community. And thank you all for watching. To subscribe to my channel, you can just click on my picture right here, and make sure to check out this video for some more crafting fun.